This is Leybourne Animal Centre in Kent, where over 700 animals are rehabilitated and rehomed every year. And this is one of them, Read the Rabbit. The centre's run by the best known and oldest animal welfare organisation in the world, known to everyone by the letters RSPCA. But what's less well known is that the then Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals was the inspiration of a Church of England vicar almost 200 years ago. On Songs of Praise, we'll be looking into the life of the Reverend Arthur Broom, the RSPCA's visionary founder, and meeting today's frontline staff working to make the world a better place for animals.
And I'm visiting a church centre designed and built by volunteers.
You get to know people when they're working together on a building site, far more than you do just sitting in a pew next to them on a Sunday service.
In a place like this, you can really sense how animals fit into God's creation. And so we begin our Songs of Praise with a timeless classic, originally written for children. This used to be Old Slaughter's Coffee House, a famous meeting house for the great and the good of London. It was here that the Reverend Arthur Broom and 22 like-minded men gathered in 1824 for the purpose of creating a new society for the prevention of cruelty to animals. It was here that the RSPCA was born. But who was the Reverend Arthur Broom? We know he was a minister of the parish of Bromley by Bow for 5 years during the 1820s, so I went there to find out more.
So this is the first minute book of the SPCA as it was then, and as you can see, he has fantastic writing, because I can read it now. His writing is much better than mine. And at that first meeting, they decided two important things. They set up the Committee for the Prevention of Cruelty, which has been done through educating people, and they set up the committee to pay the first inspectors to go out on the street.
So we're talking about a time. There was bear baiting, there was cockfighting, there was, dog fighting. They must have encountered some very rough opposition.
No, it was a very, very difficult job to be an inspector. Indeed, cockfighting and bull baiting were two very, very important things, particularly for the working class. And only 10 years after the RSPCA was founded, they had to go into a notorious cockfight in Hanwell in Middlesex and try to break it up, and unfortunately one of our inspectors was killed trying to do that. And that shows the dangers that inspectors faced in those days. We still face those dangers today, every day of the year.
So those early days, no TV, radio, no internet. How did they spread the word about the new society?
Well, interestingly enough, they did it through pamphlets and through sermons. One of the first things that Arthur Broom did was to ask his colleagues in the church to do sermons on animals. And indeed, we have records of one priest who gave a sermon on animal welfare, and his congregation hated it so much they complained to the bishop, and he was brought in front of the bishop to explain himself. So that shows how attitudes have changed over the years.
What happened to the Reverend Arthur Broom in the end?
Well, we don't know much about his later life. He got thrown into prison because of the RSPCA debts. In those days, if you got in debt, they put you in prison until your debt was paid. I think that affected his health, and then he stopped attending meetings, and after about 1832, he disappeared from our records. We know that he died in Birmingham, ironically, in a church in the Bullring in Birmingham, a place where they used to torture and be cruel to bulls, which he spent his entire life and trying to prohibit.
Do you think, in a very different world that we're in today, that if the Reverend Arthur Broom could see what it has become, he would even recognise it?
I think he would recognise it immediately. I think he would be very proud. I think he would be proud of the achievements over the last 193 years. And I think much more he would have been proud of the way people's attitudes have changed towards animals. And I think that's really important.
I see the stars, I hear the